there's this continued archetype that I come in contact with over almost 2 decades of coaching, um, and I see it both in the high school athletes and then not in any current adults that I coach, but definitely adults that I've coached in the past, and it's I was a part of this archetype as well, and it's this type of person that has a overinflated idea of not only how good they are, but also their knowledge base in terms of getting better. Um, I see this quite often now. In general, the overwhelming majority of the adults that I coach, the high school kids that I coach, are great. Like they're very self-aware. Um, they know that they're mostly average, and they're just trying to do whatever they can and listen as best they can and apply concepts as best they can to get a little bit better. These are the best people to work with. If everyone was like this, no coach would ever leave the strength and conditioning industry, whether it be high school, college, uh, general population, professional. No one would ever leave. But there's always this small demographic that seems like it's bigger than it actually is because they just take up so much of your bandwidth. And it's these athletes and adults, general population members, that they think that they're better than they actually are. And I was like this as well, especially when I was in high school. I had an overly inflated idea of how good I was. I was not self-aware at all in terms of my athletic prowess and kind of where I was in the pack. And that was mostly because I just kind of rode the coattails of my brothers who were very good and very athletic, and I was not. But like I said, I was not aware of this at all until much 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 later on, which is unfortunate because again, like I see this in athletes that I coach and adults that I coach over the years, and you try and warn them and you try and give them as much help as possible, but these type of people, they have to figure it out for themselves, and I get it because I was that type of person as well. So anyway, this is kind of a long-winded precursor to what I wanted to talk about, and what I want to talk about is being elite, and being gifted. I've had many conversations with people about, there's always going to be someone out there who's better than you, who's more genetically gifted than you. Their ability to pick up skills are going to be better than you. How fast they are is going to be better than you. How strong they are, and it's just going to be, it's just going to be a natural occurrence. So don't worry so much about being elite necessarily in these skills that are heavily dependent on genetic predisposition. And I say this because that archetype that I was talking about, they have a hard time being aware that they're not genetically predisposed to being gifted in these sports skills or strength skills or movement skills or whatever it might be. They're not aware. So then that causes them not to. It causes them not to over-index on the things that would make them better. And one of those things is, training. You need to over-index on training and double down on being elite where other people can't. And I know this probably is this rambling probably isn't making much sense, but I promise I'm getting to the point. My point is that I think everyone can be elite in a few things, and this is what I've tried to focus on myself. Over however long. Um, One of those things is being elite and being consistent. There are so many genetically gifted athletes out there who aren't consistent in their work ethic. They're not consistent in practice. They're not consistent in their training. They're not consistent in their days per week. They're not consistent in their effort. They're not consistent in their meal prep. They're not consistent in when they get up. And again, I'm using high school athletes as an example, but this applies to literally anyone and everyone. I don't care if you're a general population, you've ever played a sport before, you've played sports forever. It doesn't matter. Anyone can be elite in their consistency. So that's one. Number two, be elite in your work ethic. You can, no matter how bad you are at a sport, or how bad you are at an activity. Like I compete in bodybuilding and powerlifting. I would say in the grand scheme, according to open powerlifting and things like that, I'm not very good. But what I can do is I can try and outwork everyone. I think I have a pretty good work ethic. Maybe uh, maybe I'm just as not self aware as I was when I was younger, but I think I have a good work ethic. I think I'm very consistent. And that's one thing that I try to get across to athletes and adults is you have all the control in the world over how consistent you're going to be from a work ethic standpoint, from a consistency standpoint. Um, these intangibles that people don't want to focus on. Like I've talked to uh, my nephew who plays basketball, and he kind of gets disheartened because he's not the shooter on the team. He's not the necessarily the best passer on the team or the best ball handler. Um, but what I try and tell him is like, yes, those are all things that you can work on and get better at. 100%. You should continue to work on those and get better at. But what you can do is do all the things that no one else wants to do. You can play hard defense. So you can be elite in playing hard defense because no one wants to do that. You can be elite at being a good rebounder. You can do these things. You have a choice to do those things because even the most elite level athletes don't want to do that because there's no real notoriety or glamour in that. So when it comes to training and your health and fitness or your sports performance, you can you can be elite in getting up on time and not hitting the snooze. You can be elite in your meal prep. You can just double down and say to yourself, I'm going to do these things better than everyone else because I know that these people are better at me and more elite at these other things that there's a lot of genetic predisposition to. Again, and I'm not saying that to discourage anyone or to get them to not work on or try the things that they're not as good at as other people. I'm saying it because it should be freeing. It should free up bandwidth to focus on other things that you can be elite at. I talked to, we started off-season training for football at the high school that I'm the strength coach at. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to kind of like just beat into their heads is you getting up and coming in early and training, you can be elite at that in comparison to every other school that you come in contact with. You can rest your hat on at the beginning of the season, end of the season. Like I did everything possible. I came to every training session. I watched my food. I watched my sleep. I was elite at those things. Yeah, there might be other people who have better football skill than me or insert whatever sports skill you want. But I was elite at these things. I was elite at the things that no one else wanted to do because they were too hard and those people were just too lazy. So when it comes time in your mind of, should I do this thing? Should I stay in bed? Should I not meal prep? Should I skip this workout? Whatever it might be, understand in your head that everyone else is asking that same question. And most people, most athletes, most adults of the general population, I don't want to say most, but a lot of them are going to give into that. So you can be elite in making the right decision and getting up and doing what you're supposed to do, even when you don't feel like it. That's what you can be elite in.